call at this point our boxing point of view. Danique Liddell, Ryan Vernell in studio. We're live on the Ryan Show FM, and we're talking some boxing history. We had a good reception from the last time we sat down and did this, so we decided, hey, let's do it again a week later. We're going to go into the time machine and go all the way back to the year 1955 when a South Korean fighter was born named Duke Koo Kim, who was probably best known for being killed in action while stepping in the ring with Ray Mancini on his fateful fight on the evening. Or it might have been the daytime, actually, because I did watch the fight. It seemed like it was kind of light out. November 13th, 1982, where he faced Ray Mancini at the Caesars Palace in Las Vegas. And it happened to be a 15-round title fight in which he was knocked out in round 14, and he died shortly afterwards. This was a pivotal breakthrough moment for the sport of boxing, and Danique is here to break down exactly what went down as we step into the history machine in this segment of our boxing point of view. What up, Danique? How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. And we're all back. And we're back with unknown boxing history. Some boxing history that we just wanted to kind of bring to our maybe younger viewers or just viewers who don't know really about things that happen in boxing. And I think this is actually very pivotal in boxing because it actually changed the rules. It changed the rules. Back in the days, they would go 15 rounds, and now we go 12 rounds. And this is actually the reason why. So Dooku Kim, like you were saying, he was a Korean boxer, and he actually got the opportunity to have a title fight with Ray Boom Boom Mancini. On that day, November 13th, actually, let's go back a little bit because the week before, this fight is actually very eerie because the week before is known as Fight Week, the week before the fight. Leads up to the fight, there's a bunch of events, a bunch of press, and all these different things. So during that week, he was actually quoted as saying that he didn't know if he was going to come out of the ring alive. So that's actually something
Did
that's
you
very
look up the
interesting.
details, Danique, of what exactly he said? Because it really does get
Right.
eerie.
Right. Yeah, it gets really crazy because that week he was quoted as saying he didn't know if he was going to come out of the ring alive. And also, he wrote on his lampshade to live or to die in Korean,
That's the trippy
which is
part to me.
like,
Days before
right,
the fight, like you said, fight week, it was reported he said either he dies or I die, which is straight.
right.
I wonder if that inspired Rocky Ford. When I
It
think
could
about it,
definitely, that movie took from all different aspects of boxing. And I think that's definitely something that went into, you know, the movie.
if
So
he
it's really
dies, he dies
interesting.
is the
Right.
reference, right? If he dies, he dies. But like you said, wrote on the lampshade, live or die.
In
And
Korean.
so in Korea, and this note, of course, would fuel a legend, considering the fact that the man died after the 14th round knockout. So the details of it, he had some type of a subdema hematoma, however you say it. So he was
Right.
bleeding in the brain, right?
Right.
Afterwards,
Basically, he had a subdermal hematoma, and he bled in the brain, and they rendered him brain dead. So at that point, I believe his family had the choice to take him off life support, or I really don't know what the particulars were at that time, back in the 1980s. I can only tell you what they do now. But during that fight, they said it was actually one of the most brutal fights that took place to date on live TV. And they were in there, they were fighting for their lives. I mean, imagine 14 rounds of boxing. That is a tremendous amount of boxing. I mean, you see them now and they can barely get to 12 rounds, especially if they don't have a strength and conditioning coach, forget about it. So back then it was 15 rounds of boxing. And in the 14th round, he was knocked out and he was knocked unconscious and he never recovered. 5 days later, he died from the subdural hematoma and he never recovered again. But
it's
where
just
this go ahead.
it's just the aftermath. Like you said, not only did it change history for boxing, but all of the different people involved. Did
Right,
you go further and look and see? Because his mother came to Las Vegas after the bout and,
right,
overwhelmed with grief, committed suicide 3 months later.
right. His mother committed suicide 3 months later. After that, I believe they said it was about 6 months later, the referee committed suicide, not being able to deal with the fact that he didn't stop the fight. So he basically put it on himself that, Dooku Kim died because he didn't stop the fight. So after that, it rang so big throughout the boxing community that they had to change some of the rules of boxing. And a major thing they changed was going from 15 rounds to 12 rounds, and also the 8 round count. That's another thing that
Now,
they
was he?
changed.
What was? How was he supposed to
The
really know?
standing count, the 8 standing count.
I just don't understand why the ref felt such grief. Like Mancini, also, this was a turning point in his career. Although he did
Right.
well won some fights, but they say he never really fought with the same passion as before. And it makes you think like maybe some of these guys are just like going harder in the ring than others. We talked last time a little bit about, Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. Were these guys maybe
Mhm.
holding their punches back? Were there clauses written? I believe there were, where you couldn't even really knock somebody out. And then you look
Right,
at this fight. Before the fight, this man was saying someone's going to live and someone's going to die. So, I mean,
right,
those are talk about fighting words. Going into a
right.
fight with that type of attitude, I imagine that Mancini was going a lot harder. And
Exactly. And you know what? It's the crazy because sometimes, like, back to getting what we were talking about before with our previous segment with manifestation and things like that. Some people say it was coincidence. Other people said he manifested his fate. You'll never really know because, or sometimes maybe they say, before you're about to die, you already can sense that you're going to die. So who knows? It could be a combination of the three. He manifested it. He knew he was going to die, or he brought it to him. Who knows? But all I know is that it changed the face of boxing forever. It changed the rules. It changed a lot of things that went on with boxing.
yeah,
So essentially, his death saved thousands of lives, which is a good thing, but it's a bad thing because he lost his life, and he had a young son.
so you don't think that this had to do with just maybe some underlying health issue? Because there's people, like you said, beating the hell out of each other, not lasting nearly that long, and you would think there would
Right,
be more deaths in boxing. That's why it's
right,
so hard to even get boxers paid. It's a huge insurance liability. It's nearly
absolutely.
impossible for boxers to get insurance, from what I've read over the years.
Right, and
Um,
it's crazy that some people have pre-existing heart conditions. They have pre-existing small brain aneurysms that are in their brain that you wouldn't know until it actually erupts, or you wouldn't know that they had this heart condition until they actually died from a heart attack. And then you can't even tell because it's so small. So he could have had a pre-existing condition that he didn't know about. But as I always say in boxing, it's not just the fight. Like we kind of look at the fight as fans, we're like, oh, what was he doing, like in there or whatever. But they're training every single day. So the fact that they're training, they're getting hit every single day. Boxing is really a brutal sport. People don't really think about it like that. And brain injuries occur way before that fight. That could have been a brain injury that occurred back, when he was an amateur. That was a small end brain injury that just got bigger and bigger and bigger, you know?
it's true.
And then that's when it just erupted on the day that he fought Ray Mancini.
And eventually, maybe technology will come out where you really can detect these things way earlier. Who knows? Maybe we can bring it back to 15 rounds. I
No,
mean,
I mean, you know what's crazy? I would never want to see them fight 15 rounds ever.
it's
Sometimes,
brutal.
like when they get to like the eighth round, I see them like really. They could be getting to the third round. I see them getting beat up. I'm like, oh my god, they need to stop the fight because
Yeah,
you see these guys and it's like they can't take it anymore. And of course, the boxer, he's a dog. He wants to fight. He wants to keep going. But he really can't take it. And we as the audience, we can see like, oh, they need to stop the fight. But a lot of times the boxer, he's going to go out on his shield. He's not going to ever want to stop the fight.
it makes you wonder about just fighters of old when they were fighting to the death during the gladiator times.
Uh-huh.
These guys must have been fighting so much harder. I'm sure they'd beat the living hell
Oh
out of
my
today's
God.
fighters just from the condition. Like you talk about what you have to go through as a boxer now. These guys are dogs. Imagine being literally a gladiator. What it would have to go through,
Right.
and the regulations back then.
Right.
Talk
And there
more
were
about
there
the
there were no
animals.
regulations. It was, and even after they got the opponent on the ground, it was kill. It was, whatever the Caesar said, it was up or it was down. And that was really basically it. I always say that this is like the gladiators. Like I literally watch Spartacus every week, every time there's boxing on. But I'm in the crowd. I love it.
Yeah,
So does that make me a savage? Who knows?
a bit. We're all a bit of a savage, I guess. But once again, it's the excellence and just seeing humanity at its peak. And,
Hmm.
that type of extreme for whatever it is, somebody being so good at something. So that being said, do you predict there to be, I don't want to even say, something terrible to happen, or do you think that the rules and the regulations are at that point where we're not going to see something like this happen again?
I think that because of something like this happening, it made the boxing community a lot more aware of what can happen. And let's face it, no one wants their sport to be the cause of anyone's death. That's like the most terrible thing that could ever happen. And that would actually get the sport to be taken away altogether. No one wants to see that. No one wants that to happen. So, that's why they're a lot more stringent on the rules. If you'll see, you'll even see the corner throw in the towel, you know? And
Yeah.
there is rules where like either only the corner can throw in the towel or only the ref can stop the fight. And sometimes people say, "Oh, the ref he stopped the fight. He shouldn't have stopped the fight." But it was something that the referee saw that maybe we didn't see because they're right in the ring and they're right up on top of them. So that's why they'll stop the fight. And sometimes we'll say it was premature, but maybe it really wasn't premature. Maybe they saw something, you know. And a lot of times, also, you'll see the doctors at the end of each round go and they'll look at each boxer and see, especially the boxer who's taking more pain. They'll go to him and you'll see them with the flashlight. They're looking in their eyes. They're looking to see how their pupils are dilating. They're looking to see what's the condition of the boxer because they don't want them
Yeah.
to go out there and they don't want them to die. And you know what? Recently, I think it was 2 years ago, we had like 4 boxers died from their injuries, you
Crazy.
know? So it's something that happens. And that's like an unfortunate part about the sport, but it's again, it's a sport that we love because it happens in other sports as well. Like you see it happening in football. I know there was a big thing where they were saying that a lot of the football players were getting these brain injuries, so
Yeah.
they were doing like more regulations with the helmets and stuff like that. But they even have helmets on. In boxing, there's no helmet. When they're
Everything is
sparring,
just
they have
safer.
headgear on, but there's no helmets when they're actually in the ring. Only when it's sparring.
And I'm sure
So
eventually, because they do it in Olympic boxing, they have helmets on, right?
they do.
So I would eventually imagine that there's going to be some type of head protection added. So changes since then. Fighters now must have MRIs or brain scans before big fights. Like you
Right.
mentioned, ringside doctors are monitoring the fights between rounds. And if the fighter looks off, like you said, the doctor could stop it. Blood tests, neurological checks, and weigh-ins are more
Mhm.
controlled. And in the early 80s, none of this was a standard. And just in
No.
general, the referee culture seems to have changed over the years too. I remember even watching UFC fights in the early 2000s and thinking, "Damn, this guy should stop the fight."
Right.
They were prioritizing pride over safety, and it just seems in general no one wants the liability. There's so much money in it now.
Right.
Um, so I would imagine modern refs probably would have stopped the fight rounds earlier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe they would have stopped that fight way before it got to the point because he did get to think about it. Now we have 12-round fights. He got to the 14th round before he was knocked out. So, that fight wouldn't even went that far in today's standards. It would have only went to 14 rounds. It would only went to 12 rounds. So,
Well, very interesting. And I hope everybody there out there listening, was able to learn something new about this wonderful sport of boxing. And for more great boxing information, history, snippets, videos, and great content overall, go to My Boxing POV on TikTok. That's the place to go. Danique, I recently went viral on TikTok at a family party, but we'll get
I
into
know.
that later on in the night. Hilarious stuff. You actually heard about this?
I did briefly.
Did I tell you about it?
What? Go ahead, tell me.
Did I? Oh no, I wasn't sure if I told you or if you saw the video. Like, I had people
No, I saw the
tagging
video.
me. You actually saw me without me
Yeah,
showing it
I
to you.
saw the video. No, I
That's
saw
it.
the video. Sometimes Brian just came up in my search. Like, how sometimes it's come up in your for you page? I think that's how it came up.
Well, here's the thing. It wasn't from my account. It was from my
Okay.
girlfriend's son's account at a
But who knows
Thanksgiving.
how how they put everything together because of everybody's accounts and things like that.
Maybe that's the thing. But this video got. I mean, it wasn't like billions of views, but it's at least at
Yeah.
5 million views pretty quickly. It's a
Yeah, that's
viral
crazy.
Thanksgiving video, and everyone involved is now a meme, including me. We're gonna get into it. I'm gonna get into it as I come back later on the evening. But Danique, thanks for all, and always check out Fox Sports Radio for what's going on because you can hear Danique Liddell on there. Anything else that I forgot? Where else? What else do we got to let them know?
Um, just stay tuned to boxing. We're gearing up for the big Joshua and Jake Paul fight. We're actually gearing up. I actually am very interested in Shakur Stevenson fight. He's going to be fighting Teofimo Lopez, and actually Usyk just called out Deontay Wilder. So let's see if that goes to anything, and that should be like a pretty interesting fight. I think so. So that's pretty much it. And stay tuned to my boxing POV, and we'll have a lot more.
Find her, follow her, and don't go nowhere. We'll be back soon after a message from our sponsor.